Okay, I see a lot of our guests coming back from lunch, and why don't you let us know you're here in chat. As people are coming back in, I want to remind all of you that if you have a question that you want to ask one of the panelists, please use the Q&A button along the bottom of your screen. It's a little bit to the right. Use that, because if one of the panelists is able to answer, they can type an answer back to you while another speaker is still talking. So use that Q&A, and the chat over here is just to let us know that you're there and what you think of the program. After this is all over, probably tomorrow, Dylan will be sending all of the attendees any presentations that are presented or were presented, and all of the information that the speakers have provided, their contact information and things like that. So Dylan will be doing that later or tomorrow, and so look for that. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panel. I think we've got most of our attendees are back. Our panel for this discussion on solid waste and solid waste management after COVID are Crystal Bennett. She's the manager of municipal services with Republic Services, and she's been with them for 7 years. We have Patrick Riley, the solid waste and sustainability unit manager for the Department of Environmental Quality, and he has been with them 11 years. I worked with him when I was there. He's also one of our board members. Kyle Smith is the district sales manager for Waste Connections of Oklahoma. He's been with them for 12 years. And his colleague, Brittany Lemoyne, is also on our board of directors. And then, of course, last but not least, is Pete Schultz, who is the senior district manager for waste management. He's been with them for 19 years, and he is also a Keep Oklahoma Beautiful board member. So we're going to start with Patrick. And like I said, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. Thank you all.
Okay, well, thanks for the invitation to speak to you all today. And again, I'm with the Department of Environmental Quality, the regulatory agency. So I'll go ahead and talk about how great things are going at this agency, and then my co-panelists can talk about how it's really that's not true at all, if they so desire. But of course, I'm just joking. So DEQ has been working remotely since mid-March. We went from talking about the possibility of remote working to mandatory 100% staff out of the building in like 2 days. So it was abrupt, it was sudden. It's presented some obstacles, as I'm sure are common to everyone working remotely. And if you hear my dogs bark, I'm sorry about that. They're crazy coworkers of mine now. But so it's presented some obstacles, but while we're not completing business as usual, I think we're completing business as it needs to happen. We maintain a skeleton crew in the office, some management staff and administrative support to make sure that things are accomplished that have to be done in the office. And we had incredible IT support that allowed our staff to work remotely. I mean, when you think about the kind of functions that we have, permitting, we have a bunch of engineers looking at permit applications and permit actions. We have compliance and enforcement staff. We have technical assistants and administrative grant support people. And when you think about what they do, the majority of it is reading, writing, and talking, right? So if you can find a way to accomplish those things remotely, which with the tools available to us, we can do that. We can accomplish the majority of the business that way. The exceptions are things like face-to-face meetings at facilities, which have been a little bit difficult. And we've made some inroads with remote inspections over the phone, sharing photos and videos. So that's been helpful. One surprise was the efficiency that we've discovered by sharing documents electronically. You know, there's a lot of peer review and supervisor approval that happens with permit applications and letters and things. And while we talked about doing that in the past, we were kind of forced into that now. And it's really worked well for us and presented some efficiencies. So that's kind of a silver lining, I guess. Other obstacles, you know, one of the things that we value is the public participation process and permit actions. So holding a public meeting at this time is difficult. So we're trying to figure out how to do that and be protective of human health, but still allow for that public dialogue to happen. So, you know, to sum things up, I think we're accomplishing what we need to in this new kind of paradigm that we have. Some obstacles, some surprises, but we're doing the best we can. So now we'll hear from the industry folks can comment on how DEQ is doing and how they like being regulated remotely.
Yeah, I'm happy to go ahead. I'm Kyle Smith. I'm with Waste Connections. I've been with the company for 12 years. I've been in sales for 7 or 8 of those years. And it's been a challenge. We've been also working remotely midway through March, and managing a sales team that, you know, we provide a service, we are active in the community, we are trying to, you know, on a normal basis, be in front of our customers, you know, in person. And so it's been a challenge to be able to still get some resemblance of results that we need to get while, you know, doing everything via Zoom meeting, Skype, emails, and phone calls when we're just used to being in person. But I think, you know, with anything, you kind of get used to it. And we've been doing it for, gosh, 6 months now, or 5 months now. So, you know, we're finding our stride. And, you know, I think the biggest challenge when you provide commercial service to a market that goes into a period where things just kind of freeze up like they did with COVID, you know, we had a lot of restaurants that shut down completely that we provide service to, or scaled back significantly. You know, we want to be a good partner with all our customers. So, you know, we've been able to be flexible, and, you know, we've scaled back service for most of those people when they needed it. And as they've, you know, businesses come back for them, we've been able to add their service back. The challenge for us from an operational standpoint is, you know, we still have to essentially put all the same amount of equipment out on the street to pick up significantly less trash with the issues with COVID going on. So making sure that, you know, we can keep our drivers with the amount of hours that they're used to. You know, now commercial business has slowed down a little bit, but everybody's at home. So residential business has been busier, with more people having trash curbside instead of, you know, instead of commercial pickup. So we've moved some things around to accommodate that. And, you know, we're really just kind of waiting for things to get back to normal, which, you know, I don't exactly know when or what that'll look like when it happens, but keeping our sales team motivated and finding ways to still go after new customers and still take care of our current customers while really not being able to pop into a business has been a challenge. And but one I think that we're figuring out. And so any questions that anybody would have about kind of what we're doing, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay, and I don't have any in the Q&A. Can you guys see the Q&A, what Richard Thackeray is saying?
Let's see.
He says Cushing held a successful tire event. So
Stopped by and asked how he could get rid of 10,000 plus tires.
yeah. Did you help them with that, Patrick? Or did Farrella probably did that?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this one.
Okay. Pete, you want to go?
Absolutely. So, okay. My name is Pete Schultz. I work with waste management. I've primarily worked in the disposal side of our industry, with a little bit of work in our EP and engineering side. For us, and this time, this was definitely a change for us. Looking back at some of our issues, particularly since my side of the business is really a lot more interactive with the public more than any other part of our business on a day in and day out basis. We're touching customers, at our larger sites, anywhere from 500 to 800 people a day, and these are truck drivers that are coming in and out. So immediately for us, safety and the health of our employees and those customers was paramount, to make sure that we really made sure that anybody that came in contact with us, we were protecting ourselves and we were protecting them. So luckily for us on our side of the business, most of the time if you ever come to the landfill, you're coming up to a window. So we've got a built-in barrier there already. So one of the things that we did, of course, was, add masks, gloves, and then trying to get our customers to use some sort of payment method other than cash. And so actually had at a lot of our smaller sites where we actually stopped taking cash exactly for that reason, and not trying to prevent spreading. One of the funny parts for us is we had just implemented a new signing system where we had a pad outside and we could do all of our invoicing and manifests and everything through a pad outside. And I had to shut it down because everybody's touching the pad. So that was a big challenge for us. Technology, as Kyle talked about before, changing of technology and also Patrick was big. For me, I really didn't have a lot of staff that we could have work from home, although our company as a whole, we sent about a third of our employees home. And so that technologically was a huge challenge as a company to try and get everything done. But it was done very quickly, great IT group. It was went very smoothly. So that was very, very helpful. So the other part for us, and of course this is, I'm looking at it more from an operations standpoint, is the safety of my employees. We're a very social group, used to hanging out together, during breaks, although for most of the day we're separated in our own pieces of equipment or in our own location at a window. So it was, critical that we came up with some methods and new ways of doing business, and even as simple as having safety meetings every morning, doing a tailgate meeting, outside where everybody's spread out instead of in a break room or in a video room watching a video. So that was a challenge, and it was new for us. So in addition, having lunch, I know everybody, when you have a particularly large group of people, everybody likes to have lunch, particularly at once, typically at a site, you split it into two, you think about those things, and so we've got anywhere from, 5, maybe a couple people to 10 people at a time in a break room, which is just not acceptable anymore. So, going to where we even have 3 lunch breaks now to try and make sure we've got everybody spread out, and then coming up with, we actually moved our lunchroom out into the shop, and had everybody spread out so they could have their lunch and still get some sort of, togetherness, that everybody likes to have. So, it was definitely a social change for us, particularly, as a company. And we really push that, that's a big part of our culture is, relying on each other. So that was big for us. That as a company, in looking at how it affected us and nationally and locally, we really are lucky, being in Oklahoma. We haven't been impacted as hard as other parts of the country. So for us, similar to what Kyle was saying, we, instead of seeing a loss, we really saw a transition of waste and recycling, and so it made us have to become more agile, not only, with what we're doing at the disposal sites, but within our hauling districts and the recycling facilities to manage and transition our resources to handle those things. So that was a big component, particularly early on. And early on, we weren't even, was it even going to work, but I think with everybody's hard work and everything's really come out well. So one of the things that Patrick wanted to know was, regulatorily, our industry, particularly the disposal side, is really heavily impacted by regulations, and so it was for us good to see that transition by the ODEQ and a lot of the city municipalities, that it was very, very smooth, transitioning from, coming out to the sites and seeing us to, inspections that were done more through taking pictures, filling out forms, things like that. So for us, other than I miss my inspectors, it really was a smooth transition for us, Patrick. So that kind of answers your question. Safety is always first for us. Environment's number 2. So, that's a big part of our culture, and it fit in well. So, we'll keep on doing, but, overall, we really have looked at this, as an opportunity. We've learned a lot of, things about ourselves and how agile we can be, how more efficient we can be. I think Kyle was talking about, how we really found ways to become more efficient. We're finding that people that work at home are more productive. So those are some things that we haven't quite, or at least I haven't heard that we figured out why somebody's more productive at home than they are in the office. But, there's a lot of opportunities coming out of this, not only for ourselves, but for our customers, and improving, collection, recyclables, and disposal. So, moving forward, I think there's a lot of opportunities with this, even though we're separated and we're a very social group. I think there's a lot of good things that can happen for us, not only as a company, but as an industry. I think there's a lot of things that we can do. So, but that was kind of our experience. Moving forward, it's still a learning experience. Talking about people that have, we've been very fortunate, particularly in our region, with the impact on COVID on our employees. We're finding that we're not seeing infections as a result of interaction between employees, but more so outside of the workplace. So I think a lot of the safety precautions that we've implemented have helped and can work. So and that's not only in my business line, but in the hauling side, and in the recycling, and the service side of our business. So we've been very fortunate in this region. So, but that's kind of our perspective and what we've seen with COVID so far through the year. So.
Thank you so much. Okay, I think, Crystal, are you next?
I'm next.
Yay.
I'm ready. These are crazy times, right? So I'm Crystal Bennett with Republic Services. I've been here 7 years. I am the municipal manager, so I have 26 cities that I manage. I manage disposal contracts, recycling contracts, residential and commercial. So I just wanted to start off by talking a little bit about what we've experienced. You know, more than 90% of our 6,000 non-frontline workers are working from home now. We've all shifted to working from home. I mean, probably the big benefit for me, it's a really small commute to my dining room table, right? So, you know, Republic's reached out, any employees that they have that may get the virus, they get extra paid PTO. We've really made sure that our employees all have the protection gear and the protection equipment and the masks, which is really new because they don't always want, you know, it's difficult to get used to wearing that. So providing that for all our employees, I know everybody's in that boat. Just the sanitizing protocols that we have to go through are really intense because of how many people we have coming in and out of our break rooms. And so we've had to come up with a new norm for that. You know, some of the things that have happened, I mean, everybody's at home. So everybody's cleaning out their house. I mean, our bulk is crazy right now. Everybody, you know, like I said, is cleaning out. We are seeing a 17 to a 25% increase in our cities from our disposal, just from residential. So huge increase on us. I mean, that's meaning more time for the drivers, more trips to the landfill. I mean, it's just a whole change for us to get used to, because the good thing about running routes and running trash routes is doing it the same way, having, you know, being able to know where to break off. And so that has been all very new things to us. You know, the pandemic we saw caused a 30% decrease in most of the commercial. You know, I know people have mentioned, you know, we had places closing down. People are ordering out. I mean, they may go by and pick up. So we've had a huge decrease in commercial, but a huge increase in residential. And the residential, I mean, it's been huge. I mean, like I said, 17 to 25% per household increase in what they're throwing away is a lot of disposal costs that we're seeing come in. You know, Republic did a survey, and they said they believe that the residential volumes will stay pretty much elevated over the next 2 trailing years from this, just because of what's happened. So we should probably, I mean, this is probably going to be our new norm for a while. You know, we have looked at, it's been an extraordinary cost increase for residential because of some of the things that I've named. You know, we've had to restructure and adjust our services because, like I think Kyle had mentioned, we're still driving by all of those places that we're not picking up now. And probably one of the really sad things is I have a bunch of really small towns that the businesses didn't make it, right? I mean, they have closed. It's going to be a big shift. I mean, when I look at a lot of the cities that I service, their revenue is based on sales tax. Like 70% of their revenue is based on sales tax. So when they have these places close, we're going to see big impacts on our cities, you know, and how service is going to be for them. I mean, things that we're going to have to adapt to. You know, because we're expecting a lot of people aren't going back home. A lot of people, this will be their new norm, is working from home from now on. So our whole philosophy is going to have to shift according to that, and how we service our customers is going to have to shift. You know, one of the things that we've seen though is we have not reduced in recycling. Recycling's maintained the same or even gotten a little bit more, like I said, because people staying at home. It's just the educational process of making sure that they're recycling what they're supposed to be recycling and not throwing their trash. We've seen that quite a bit lately, is they're using, they're throwing trash in the recycling. So it's really having to go back and educate those people that are staying at home now about what goes in the recycling. That's pretty much, I know I mentioned earlier before this started that I'm working from home. I deal with all the municipalities, and I am seeing an uptick of cases in our municipalities that our cities, I have probably 3 or 4 cities right now that are seeing a spread through their city of COVID. So I have a feeling that we're just at the tip of the iceberg as far as that goes, that we're going to be seeing cases more and more come up in our cities and the people we're dealing with. I know that I've gone to a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of calls, which I used to do in person, that it will change the whole face of how we do business now. So unless anybody has any questions, I think that's about it for me.
Crystal, you're asking, you touched on something that I have had questions about, which is what gave me the idea for this specific topic on this forum, is the recycling aspect, and people are staying home and what really goes in that recycle bin. Do any of you have any input on, where people can go? We feel like it's a no-brainer because we understand what can be recycled, but there's so many people who really, they don't understand all the plastics and what's this 0 through 7 and where can people go to look for what?
I know each one of us has different ways, or on our websites. Usually if you go to that city's website, that's what I would encourage people to do, because all of us have different, different acceptable recycling. But if you go to the actual city's website, that should tell you exactly what's recycled in that city. I will tell you that I have come up with a campaign in the last week or so that, we're tagging that. We do not want to see the contamination increase in our residential because of the increased from residential, right? So we are really tagging those carts and saying, hey, your cart looks good, or hey, you need to remove this out of your cart before, and you need to get this out of there before we'll empty it. That's a really labor intensive, especially what we're asking our drivers to do anyway. So you kind of have to weigh that out. Like, there's no way that our drivers could look at every container, but boy, the ones that are really egregious, they're tagging those carts and making sure that those are cleaned out. But really now more than ever, I would say people need to be looking at the city that they live in, the website, and what the acceptable recycling is.
Okay, that's great. That's good information, because even my own mom kept asking me, where do I go? And I said, your city's website. So yeah, and I'm feeling better about, I know Republic Services, my recycle bin, and I haven't gotten a message on my bin, so I guess I'm doing okay. What do you all do, Kyle?
So it's pretty similar practice. So if you go to Waste Connections of Oklahoma City, like our local website, we list all the acceptable items that we offer for the residential recycling that we do have. Like, we provide that service for, the Village and Choctaw, things like that. So we'll let them know what's acceptable. And then our drivers, they spend a lot of time, the commercial recycle drivers as well as our residential drivers, of checking what's in the can. And especially on the commercial side, we've got a camera system in the hopper of the truck. So when it dumps the can, if we see that they're if there was something buried under the can, because they're looking at in the top before they dump it a lot of times. And sometimes people will bury things that shouldn't be in there underneath some good stuff. And so we'll see that, and then they'll reach out to myself, and we pass it to our sales reps to call those customers and explain to them, hey, we've seen food waste in the recycle can, and that will, if you get really, it doesn't take much food waste to contaminate a load of recycling, and then that ends up having to go to the landfill because there's just too much contamination in it. So our drivers do a really good job of, they want to see a clean load when they get to the recycler. They take a lot of pride in not getting a load rejected. And really they're the eyes and ears for that. So the hard work that they put in helps us a lot. You're muted, Jeanette. Jeanette, you're muted. There we go.
I can hear Dylan laughing at me. So do any of you can answer, but has COVID affected what you want in those recycle bins? Have you changed anything due to COVID? Okay.
No, that's really just, I mean, we haven't anyways.
Yeah. Somebody was asking me if they changed taking glass. I mean, I know that some of you all aren't taking glass at all anymore, but this question was, are they not taking glass because it's not clean? So
no, thank you. It doesn't have it. I mean, for us, it doesn't have, that's not a safety concern, a COVID safety concern.
Okay.
So the recycler, that we take our product to, they've got their own safety standards in place for how they deal with that material once we bring it to them. And we kind of let them handle that. If they, anytime that they don't want something, they will relay that information to us, and then we relay it to our customers. But
right.
how they handle that is really, that's up to them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think for us, taking it to the recycling, to the MRF, they have to, because we've heard about how long the coronavirus stays on cardboard and, how it stays on different surfaces. So it's been a big change for the recycling facilities too, because they've really had to implement, a lot of that stuff is touched by hand. So they've really had to implement some measures to keep their employees safe. I mean, it's been a whole nother step for that process, which is pretty intensive, making sure that they stay safe and healthy, right?
Right.
So
right.
it has been something that we usually don't see on our side of it because we pick it up and take it there to be done. But they have really had to implement some safety concerns. I mean, that they hadn't had it to in the past, just because of the implication of COVID staying on certain items.
Right. Now more than ever, really wash your recyclables before you put them in. Yeah. Anything to add to that, Patrick?
No, but I have a question. How many of your cities or programs have changed to not pick up trash off the ground? I think Oklahoma City started that, where they would only pick up stuff in carts now because they don't want their employees handling trash from the ground, like manually.
I've heard that too.
So I can say for Republic Services, it was more not that, because they've done everything to make their employees safe, right? They've given them all their protection. For us, it's more because of how much we are getting from the homes. And I mean, just their days are so long now, because when you look at 17 to 25% more per household, it's just taking them longer. So we are really encouraging second carts in our cities, and I mean, things that probably should have been in place before, but we were just letting go, like them putting bags beside their carts or whatever. So that's really what we've stopped, and it's more so just for the driver's sake, and the volume that we're picking up to make sure that we can get all their needs handled.
So for us, our municipalities, we had stopped picking up things outside the car along with bulk from April until, I want to say, June 1st, we started bulk again. And in those towns, we had set roll-off containers at at City Hall or wherever, that residents could just bring us their bulk items, their extra items, and we essentially would take whatever they brought. But it kept our drivers from having to get out of the truck and touch things. So we have gone back to curbside bulk pickup over the last month, and so far, I mean, it seems like it's going well. Now, we are also seeing a rise in cases among, across Oklahoma. So, I don't know if that will continue or if we'll have to go back for a period of time of doing those convenience center roll-off pickups. So it's kind of, it's forever changing, and we're just gonna, kind of move along with it and just do what we can to keep our people safe.
Well, and I can appreciate that. I don't know if you all can see Chuck Rawls, he's the city manager of Comanche, and he says that they're notified of who is tested positive for COVID. So they tell their waste company the addresses of those people so they can take precautions when they need to. I think that's interesting. Just trying to keep those guys safe. I mean, we need to, especially hearing what Crystal's saying about some of her municipalities are having COVID just go through the city staff. So I am not seeing any more questions. We'll wait a minute or two and see if anybody has any questions or any other comments. And then we'll let everybody have their last break, and we'll come back for the breakout. Do any of you have anything else? I want to thank you again so much for being a part of this with us. I know this is something that our affiliates look forward to, and really enjoy just understanding what's going on, especially in these crazy times, and what's happening with the solid waste that it's our mission to pick up. So I'm not seeing any more comments, and we will kind of sign off for now. Everybody take a break, get a drink, and then we'll be back at 2 o'clock for those breakout sessions. And in that session, just a little logistics for you. That session will be the Zoom session that you are used to, where you will see everybody who is participating, and you'll be able to have conversations. So please come back for that. Not all, but many of our speakers will be joining us then. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for having us, Jeanette. All right. Take care.